Let's talk about your experience in the military.
Yes.
How did it begin?
It began from an interest in ensuring that our Adventist young people who serve in their country's armed forces would be able to experience and practice their faith. And from that interest, it also expanded to wanting to serve my country. I had a deep appreciation for history and for our nation's history, and I just wanted to be able to both be a pastor and a military officer.
What are some of the experiences that you had which really compelled you to want to serve God while doing personal duties?
Well, actually, you prepare for the chaplaincy by preparing for the pastoral ministry. Because first and foremost, all chaplains are pastors. And so I was out pastoring churches in a district as a young intern, okay? And while I was doing that, I also was in the Army Reserves as a chaplain.
When we talk about arms, being military personnel,
yes,
being armed
sure.
and not being armed, is something that you'll find varied opinion. What is your take on this?
Well, first of all, chaplains are always non-combatants. By Geneva Convention, they are recognized as non-combatants. They do not train with, bear, or use a weapon. So for chaplains, it's not a problem. In some countries, not all, but in many countries, there are 3 classifications. You can be a total pacifist that says, I will not use force under any circumstances, and therefore I will not serve in the military. Or you can serve in the military, but in a non-combatant role. In other words, you may go into battle, but you would not use a weapon to kill, to take life. You are only there to save life. And then the third role is the most common, of course, and that is the combatant position. That is the soldier who does bear and use a weapon.
Talking of the Geneva Convention, it reports that out of about 7,500 Adventists who serve in the military in the United States, almost all of them are combatant. Only about 50 of them are non-combatant or chaplains. What does this statistics indicate or mean to us?
Well, first of all, we have Adventists that serve in many nations' militaries. This is just not a North American problem, okay, or only North American Adventists serving in the military. While it is true that since the Vietnam War, when the draft ended and we kind of forgot about some of the principles around non-combatancy, we've had a whole generation of youth come into the church either as converts or growing up without really looking at this issue, and many of them have joined as combatants. One must make an individual conscientious choice to determine what is God's will for their life, whether they can feel that they could use a weapon or whether they really just believe that it's wrong to take life. I think the scriptures are very clear about 2 principles. One is that the Christian is here, as Jesus came to do, to seek to save life. The second position, though, is that we also have a moral obligation to protect and defend the weak, the innocent, and the helpless.
Is it an option, a career option, per se, for young people, military?
Of course. And there are many ways to serve in the military. But I would advocate that if you go in, you should go in with a purpose and calling for a reason, and hopefully to be a positive witness in circles that normally many of the church cannot reach, but to be a positive witness for the Lord there. I think the choice has to be informed based on biblical and ethical principles. If you tell a young person, for instance, don't join, guess what they're probably going to feel challenged to do? Join. And prove you wrong. Because they're going to think, I can do it, and I can be a good Adventist Christian and do it. But there are challenges, there are difficulties.
When you're preaching or you're talking to these young men who have taken up military,
yes,
what is the first thing you tell them? Is it to drop the gun or to hold the gun and still serve?
We don't deal with the issue so much of gun unless they ask. This is their individual decision, not something I'm going to tell them what to do about, okay? If they come and ask for help with that, we will be glad to lay out the principles that we think are right and biblical and ethical and let them choose, okay? We would hope that they would come in to seek to save life. Everybody who picks up a gun does not fire it with the intent of taking life. Statistics have proved that many times over the battlefields. But obviously that's never the ideal, taking life. There is obviously a General Conference recommendation, and it basically recommends that our young people not voluntarily enlist, not because we're uncivic or we aren't proud of our countries, but because of the potential faith conflicts that we may have while serving in the military. And it says that if you do serve, if you do choose to go in, that please try to consider the non-combatancy roles within the military. But this is not a test of fellowship. Please understand that. You cannot be judged on this matter. That this is a matter of individual conscientious conviction, and the church also recommends that we provide pastoral care and religious support to all of our members in uniforms, which Paul may have been referring to in Philippians 4:22 when he calls them, King James Version, saints in Caesar's household.
The church members, the reception that there is of those who are still combatant military personnel, how do you go about this?
We're a world church with many viewpoints, from over here in total pacifism to those who think it's patriotic to serve with a weapon. And so sometimes our members are viewed in not only the United States but other places as second-class members. We don't have any such thing. And other times they're very proud of them for serving their country. I would just say this, that Seventh-day Adventists can be practicing, faithful, witnessing Adventists in a military career. It is possible. There are problems around non-combatancy issues, around Sabbath observance, around the lifestyle issues in that environment, and sometimes with diet. But generally, when they are faithful in their duties, when their values make them valuable to their commanders and units, they are viewed as fantastic and outstanding soldiers and very good representatives of the church.
The church has had some difficulty placing all ministers who graduate from our colleges.
Sure.
Do you think chaplaincy is an opening that can be used to bring in these graduates?
Yes.
Or do they still need to undergo further training for them to serve as chaplains?
If you had a heart problem, would you go to a general practitioner physician? Probably not, right? If you needed heart surgery. I would like to think that the chaplaincy is a specialized ministry in a special setting. And therefore, the first prerequisite is for pastoral experience. In fact, in most countries and in most professional organizations, the minimum is 2 years of pastoral experience, 2 years. So we're going back to that first premise. Chaplains are first and foremost ministers, pastors, who have experience and then who are endorsed or approved by their church to serve in these special settings because they have demonstrated an interest and a calling in that kind of ministry. And yes, for a young person coming out of school, in many faiths, the seminaries are turning out far more graduates than can be employed. Their calling is as valid as mine. So where do they turn to express their ministry? And I would like to suggest that the chaplaincy is wide open for men and women out there. You young ladies, we need you. You can serve in many ways even better in reaching men than we can. And so we invite you to come in and consider the chaplaincy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.